Another two-game week has seen mixed results for Blues. Saturday's win at Reading was followed by a home defeat to Leeds just 3 days later, leaving Blues 9 points adrift of the top six with 5 games to play.
It's very difficult to prepare and react to us playing so well for spells against Reading and winning the game so comfortably and picking the same team and then being so poor first half. And I think that's been our problem probably the last, you can argue, probably 10 games. You know, at the business end of the season, which we spoke about, we got to the business end of the season, which was the first stage, which was very, very difficult to do, and we knew was a great achievement to be in that position. It's then about how you handle the pressure and how you handle the big games and how you win those games. And what you'd argue is, we've just been too inconsistent, I think, over that period. Which in some ways I can understand. I can understand from some of the players, that some of the players have not been in that position before. But it's nonetheless frustrating, like you say, to see the performance first half against Leeds, which was as poor on the ball as I think we've been, regardless of who played where and formations. Just to pass the ball from A to B should be fairly simple, and we couldn't quite manage to do that. And then second half, I thought that was as well as we've played. I thought we were excellent. The crowd got behind us. We looked like we were going to go on and get a point at the very least, maybe even win the game if we could get that second goal. And we couldn't quite manage to do that. But certainly infused by the second half performance. But we know we need to be more consistent than that. And you would say that that's been the big reason behind our playoff campaign being sort of derailed a little bit. Yes, a lack of goals at times, but also just a bit of consistency in the way we've played.
Despite a recent dip in form, Rowett is still pleased with many aspects of this season and feels his squad is capable of achieving more.
I think it'd be remiss of me as a manager to say, and me not doing my job properly, to say that we've gone as far as we can. I think we've maximised a lot of things this season. I think there's certainly some areas where we still think we could have done better. But certainly, if you look at if you look at the season every year of the teams that get promoted, you'll get one or two anomalies, of course, and everyone will use those anomalies. The Burnley side, Leicester, but most of the time, money talks in this division, and it certainly helps. And I think that's something you'd always aspire to. A as a club, B as a manager. Can we get some players in that might make a difference? But I also think we've got to try and see if we can improve some of the players we've got, and I certainly think over the last 10 games, some of those players could look and say, I could do a little bit more. So I think I don't think as a manager you ever feel like you've maximised everything. I think that's easy because it then shifts the blame off you and onto the players, and that's not what's got us. We've had 18, 19 months now of, I think we've won something like 40% of our games, which when you think of this group's performance before that, I think is good progress. But of course we want more. We're all greedy. We're all disappointed that we've not managed to get into the playoffs. But of course my job now is to work out how we can win as many of the last 5 games, and how we can also, side by side with that, look at how we can plan and be a little bit ahead of a game for next season.
Second place Burnley are Blues' next opponents, and Gary Rowett feels that although he would like to experiment with his team, winning games has to remain the priority.
You're playing probably as the best team in form in the division, and you have to look at, can we be competitive? We want to try and win the game, and I think it's always hard to try and win the game. I think to be radically experimental, there's a point where you have to say, okay, well, it doesn't matter if we lose the last 5 games of the season if we learn lessons. And I think as a manager, that's always hard to do that. I don't want to lose any game. I go home, it hurts. I stayed over in Birmingham Tuesday night. I'm sat in the hotel, and I'm annoyed and I'm frustrated and I'm almost depressed after the game. And then I wake up the next morning, I'm ready to go again and try and infuse people, and that's unfortunately what the job's about. So it's difficult going into any game. I think that there will be a point where I'll have to do one or two things, but I think at this moment my focus really is on winning winning more than one game in 5 or 6. You know, I know there's other teams in the same boat. You look at Hull, got a fantastic squad of players, terrific manager, and they've won one game in 8. You know, it's not easy at this stage of a season, but we want to win some games. We want to finish strongly.
Rowett is expecting a tough test from the Clarets and feels that if Blues are to get a result, they need to not only defend well, but use the ball much better.
I think any game of football you've got to defend well, and any game of football you've got to attack well. And we've seen games this season where we've, you know, some of our best performances against, you know, you look at, again, I don't want to keep using the same, you know, it's not propaganda, but I look at the best games we've played against. Hull at home, we've had to defend resolutely for most of the game. Yet when we win the ball, now you've got to use the ball smartly, particularly if you're not going to have as much possession as the opposition. You know, it's becoming an increasing trend in football where teams are counter-attacking. Lots of the best teams do it. But what they do is they use the ball really well when they win it and they exploit space. You look at us as a team, we've defended on the whole pretty well. One of our biggest problems has been when we've been wasteful with the ball, and that means you have to defend an awful lot more than you do if you use the ball well. So I think certainly we're going to have to defend well against Burnley. Any team that plays them is going to have to. But we're going to have to attack well, and we're going to have to use the ball a lot better. And I think that, you know, a combination of the best teams do that. I saw Burnley against Leeds. They went ahead after 45 seconds or something like that, and then they were literally resolute for the rest of the game. And they win the game 1-0, and you've got to find ways of winning the games, and whether that's attacking great, defending great. I certainly don't want to be 2-0 down against Burnley, that's for certain. You know, so that's something we'll have to look at.